Welcome back to Haunted Earth, Terror Beyond the Grave. In this season, we're journeying deep into the world's most cursed forests. Tonight, we enter a place where the very ground seems alive. This is the story of the forest that breathes. Imagine you're deep in the woods, miles from any road. The air is still, heavy, but then you feel it, a slow, rhythmic pulse. The air doesn't just move, it seems to inhale and exhale, like the slow, sleeping breaths of some colossal creature. This is where our story begins, in a forest that locals whisper about but never dare to enter after dark. A forest that lives, breathes, and, as some say, hungers. 4 friends, Liam, Chloe, Ben, and Maya, decided to camp there for a weekend. They were experienced hikers, skeptical of the local folklore. The stories were just that to them. Ghost tales meant to spook tourists. They laughed as they set up their tents, joking about the breathing forest. "Maybe it just has asthma," Ben quipped, earning a round of chuckles. They built a fire, the flames crackling cheerfully, pushing back the encroaching darkness. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the woods fell into a profound silence. The usual chirping of crickets and rustling of nocturnal animals was conspicuously absent. All they could hear was the snap of their fire and their own hushed conversations. As night deepened, the atmosphere began to change. The air grew thick and damp, carrying an earthy, almost mossy scent that was strangely overpowering. Chloe, always the most observant, was the first to notice something was wrong. She was inside her tent trying to sleep when she felt it. A subtle, rhythmic vibration coming up from the ground. It was a slow, steady pulse, like a giant heartbeat. She called out to Liam, whose tent was next to hers. "Do you feel that?" she whispered, her voice trembling slightly. Liam, half asleep, mumbled a reply, but then he felt it too. It was undeniable. The ground beneath them was pulsing. They both scrambled out of their tents. The campfire had dwindled to glowing embers, casting long, dancing shadows. Ben and Maya were still awake, sitting by the fire, their faces pale. "You feel it too, right?" Maya asked, her eyes wide. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. They could see it. The soft, moss-covered earth around their campsite was gently rising and falling in a slow, coordinated rhythm. It was as if they were camped on the chest of a sleeping giant. The initial amusement had evaporated, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. This wasn't a legend. This was real. Suddenly, a sound echoed through the trees. It wasn't an animal cry or the wind. It was a deep, wet sigh that seemed to come from the forest itself. It was a sound of exhalation, vast and ancient. With that sigh, the trees around them began to move. Not swaying in a non-existent breeze, but twisting. Their branches writhed like grasping limbs, their bark groaning and splitting. The roots, which had been firmly planted in the soil, started to snake and coil across the ground, writhing like serpents. Panic erupted. They grabbed what they could and started to run, but the forest was no longer a passive landscape. It was an active predator. Ben, who was lagging behind, let out a terrified scream. The others turned just in time to see a thick, gnarled root wrap around his ankle, yanking him off his feet. He scrabbled at the ground, his fingers digging into the pulsing soil, but his efforts were futile. The earth beneath him seemed to liquefy, turning into a muddy, grasping mire. More roots, like wooden tentacles, coiled around his legs and torso, pulling him down. His friends watched in horror, paralyzed by fear, as the forest floor swallowed him whole. One moment he was there, screaming their names, and the next, he was gone, pulled into the soil as if he had never existed. The ground closed over him, leaving behind only the undisturbed, gently pulsing moss. In the distance, the forest took another deep, shuddering breath, a sound of satisfaction. The remaining 3 friends ran, their lungs burning, not daring to look back. They didn't stop until the sun rose and they stumbled out of the tree line, collapsing onto a dusty road, forever haunted by the memory of the night the forest breathed and fed. Want to uncover the full story behind the forest that breathes? Watch the full video linked right here. If this story gave you goosebumps, hit that follow button and subscribe for more spine-tingling horror tales. Thank you for watching, and stay safe out there.